morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Caza, and I'm in middle 2. There are some people who leave an impact on you that never goes away. When you meet one of these people, the way that they can inspire you is extraordinary. One of these people who has inspired me and left a lasting impression on my life is my Aunt Rosanna. Life has its way of taking away some of the things and people that you love most. Sadly, my Aunt Rosanna was one of these people. A few years ago, my aunt passed away. But I don't want to focus on the sadness of her death. Instead, I want to share with you all the joy of her life and all of the amazing ways that she has inspired me as a leader of character. So, what is a leader of character? Well, to me, it is someone who leads by example. A leader of character is someone who stays positive, even in the most difficult situations. Someone who cares about others, even at times when they are the one who needs the most care. Someone who demonstrates honesty, integrity, gratitude, and kindness. Someone who is fair and does the right thing, even when sometimes doing something else may be a lot easier. When I think of someone who demonstrates all of these traits, I think of my Aunt Rosanna. I am so grateful that I was given the chance to love her, to know her, and to learn from her. When I think of my Aunt Rosanna, the first thing I think of is how extremely positive she was. My sister and I were very close to her. She would often look after us when my parents were away. Unfortunately, when my Aunt Rosanna was 47 years old, she was diagnosed with cancer. She had a husband and 3 children, all still living at home, my 3 cousins. She was told that her cancer was very bad and that she would only have a few months to live. Now, could you imagine getting news like this? You would expect the reaction to be one of shock, anger, and sadness, but she never demonstrated any of those emotions. The whole time she remained positive. She never complained or felt sorry for herself. She never said, "Why me?" She accepted the diagnosis, fought the cancer as hard as she could, and was grateful for the life that she had. Throughout her 7 months of dealing with cancer, she never worried about herself. Her only worry was for her family and friends. She always put everyone else first, even though it was herself who needed the care. She was always so positive and so happy, even in times when you think that would be impossible. We would often visit her and witness friends coming by to see her with the intention of cheering her up. In the end, she was the one who ended up cheering them up, with her smiles and positivity. Sometimes we get so worked up over things that are so insignificant, and when I think of my Aunt Rosanna, I realize that I don't have to worry. A trait that all great leaders of character have is kindness. My Aunt Rosanna was a social worker, and children were especially important to her. She spent her whole life helping children in need. She worked at a center for troubled youth. And whenever anything difficult to handle came up, the center would always call on her, because all of the children would listen to her more than anyone else. She showed them so much kindness, patience, and understanding that they couldn't help but just love her, just like the way that everybody else loved her. The reason she decided to be a social worker was because of how much she loved to help others, especially children. As long as the people that she cared for were happy, she was always happy. That was the way that she lived her whole life. And sometimes it's hard to do that, but she showed through the way that she lived her life that it is important to be kind and to care for others. She showed that by making others happy, you will also be happy. A great leader of character is someone who is fair, someone who treats every human being as equally important and worthy. My Aunt Rosanna had a strong sense of fairness and equality. I remember a funny story that happened one Thanksgiving. We were a little low on pumpkin pies this particular year. There were 2 pumpkin pies for 17 people. Now, that might seem like enough, but the problem was that one was homemade and one was store-bought, and it was pretty obvious that everyone wanted the homemade pie. Considering there were 17 of us, everyone getting a piece of it did not seem very likely. But I remember my Aunt Rosanna taking control of the situation and she managed to cut the pie into 17 exactly equal tiny pieces, just so that everyone could have a piece of it. This story may not seem like much, but it is just an example of exactly how she lived her life, with a strong sense of fairness. She made sure that everyone got equal treatment. From then on, she was always entrusted with the job of serving dessert at all of our family gatherings. A leader of character takes responsibility for his or her actions and encourages others to do the same. I remember one time being at church with my family. It was a family gathering at my grandmother's house, who lives out of town. So all of my extended family, my cousins, aunts, uncles, they were all there, attending my grandmother's church on this particular Sunday. All of us cousins were so excited to be together, so it was hard to behave perfectly and not to fool around a little bit. Well, my cousin Ryan, who was Aunt Rosanna's son, was misbehaving a little bit more than the rest of us. When the service ended, my Aunt Rosanna told him that he would have to go apologize to the priest for his poor behavior. Now, he did not want to do this, and he was putting up a fuss. Everyone was telling Aunt Rosanna that she didn't have to worry about it, and everyone understood because it was just a kid. But Aunt Rosanna said that everyone must take responsibility for their actions, that it was important to be honest and humble, and that children have to learn this too. So she made Ryan go apologize to the priest, which he did, and this may, again, seem like an insignificant event, but it taught me a lot. It taught me that we all have choices in life, and that all of those choices have consequences. It would have been easy to let Ryan off the hook, and to just brush the whole thing off as childhood misbehavior. But by choosing the more difficult path of making him apologize, she took the opportunity to demonstrate a life lesson to him, and to all of us. I will always remember that. My Aunt Rosanna was one of the biggest inspirations I've ever had in my life. The way that she handled her struggle with cancer was a huge inspiration for others. Throughout the time when she had cancer, she was just as happy and positive as she was before she had cancer. Rather than being resentful about her situation, she spoke of how grateful she was and blessed to have lived the life that she had lived. People who are leaders of character truly touch the lives of the people around them. That is exactly what my Aunt Rosanna did for me, and for many, many people. She was not a famous person. She was not a celebrity or a world leader. Yet she made such an impact on the people around her. We couldn't believe it when over 500 people showed up for her funeral. The more I heard these people speak about her, the more it became clear how much she touched the lives of those around her. People talked about her kindness and her generosity, how she made everyone feel uniquely important and special. That is how she made me feel too. The place that she worked at even dedicated a room to her in her honor. They named it Rosanna's Room. Sometimes I feel sad, and I think about how unfair it is that my time with her was cut so short. But I know that she wouldn't want me to think that way. She would want me to be happy for the time that we had. I feel so blessed that I was able to have her in my life, and that I was able to learn from her. Though it was cut short, her life was rich with love and happiness, and she inspires me to be a better person, to always strive to help others, to be happy, positive, and grateful for what I have, and to set the best possible example for those around me. She has inspired me by the way that she lived her life as a true leader of character.